Hello out there, and welcome to Cross-Cultural Experiences. My name is Uche Onyebadi. This will be a two-part series. As you know, this is a program where I invite guests to come and talk about their experiences, transitioning from one culture to another, and then talk about whatever they experience in that new place, as well as what they learned from that experience. As usual, I don't disclose where I'm broadcasting from, but this time I will. As I'm talking to you today is the 14th of July, and I am in a place called Singapore. If you recall, a few weeks back, I talked about Singapore, how I traveled to that place, and it was a very, very pleasant experience. The city is clean. The taxi driver I mentioned that took us around, even brought back the money, said that we overpaid him, which was a surprise that the taxi driver will bring money back to you, say, you overpaid me. And how they were very kind, with giving me an umbrella when it was raining. And then they told me, oh yeah, take it over there. When you get there, just leave it there. Somebody else will need it. So I thought it was very nice. So when I got the opportunity to come back, I said, okay, let's go. Okay, why am I here? I got an opportunity for a conference, to attend a conference that is called the International Association for Media and Communication Research, which is what I do. So I said, well, why not? Let's go back to this very pleasant place. And it turned out that the experience is not what I can describe as very pleasant. I'll get to that in a minute. As usual, the conference organizers, as well as, going to the website, of the government, all the key things they told us, everybody coming for this conference, was number one, you make sure your passport is okay, which is the usual requirement. But they have something else they call a Singapore arrival card. Actually, they insist on that card. So on the card, you apply, and they say, your application must be 3 days to the arrival dates, including the day you're arriving. Very, very explicit. It was explicitly communicated. And so I did all that. I got an approval. And so I said, okay, here I come, conference. But remember, the card, one of the requirements is to ask you, those regular questions. So this question was, health declaration, they called it. Have you had this and that, whatever, where are you coming from? And they insisted, you have to be very truthful. Because if you're not, you're going to incur some kind of penalty. I said, okay, why not? I just filled it. Nobody's afraid of anything, so I just filled it. And they approved it, everything was fine. So I arrived on the 12th, on Saturday night, 12th of July, Saturday night, at about 9:30, so clearing everything, now get to immigration. And I see they're very, technologically advanced. So you put your passport somewhere and it reads, put your finger, thumbprint and all that, blah, 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 blah. And suddenly they said that the system said, turn around and go back. There's an officer you'll meet who might just be behind you. So I went back to the officer. Oh, come this way, very politely. So I go. And I wasn't surprised because there was another person, two people in front of me who had the same experience. I said, okay, maybe that's how they do things. So I get there. The officer said, okay, they'll call you. So they called me. What is it? Where are you coming from? Kenya. I don't live in Kenya. I'm not a resident, but I went there for some official duty. So that was the origin of my flight. So I go back there and then he said, you're coming from Kenya? I said, yeah, that's what, this is my ticket. That's where I'm coming from. So where is your yellow fever vaccination card? I said, yellow fever vaccination card? Nobody uses it anymore. I don't know the last time I had that yellow fever and the booster. They said, no, you need it. I said, but I don't need it. It's not on your, when I went to your website, it just says if you're coming from the United States, if you live there, then all you need is your passport. You don't even need a visa. They said, no, I needed it. We try to reason, try to explain. No way. The law is the law. You must produce it. I said, I don't have it. He said, okay, you have two choices. I said, what are those choices? One choice is for you to just turn around. Remember, this is immigration. I've already come inside. Turn around, get another flight, and just leave. I said, tonight, where am I going to get another flight? They said, just turn around and leave. Okay. What if that, what's the other alternative? The alternative is that we're going to quarantine you. Say, do what? Yeah, we're going to put you in some kind of isolation. I said, all right. Before I tell you what my preference is, if you are interested in checking for yellow fever or whatever it is, so why don't we go to your doctor or your nursing or whatever section of the airport, then you can carry any test you want. They said, nope. Anyway, I will go there, but the test cannot be conducted. I said, why? So there's no doctor. I said, no doctor around? Say, yeah, but even if the doctor was around, it will take 10 days for the result to come. I didn't have 10 days. I was just coming on a Saturday, Saturday night and leaving on Wednesday. So it doesn't make sense, according to them. Again, they were very polite. They were, I will give it to them, very professional, very polite. There was no shouting match. There was nothing. We were just having a good conversation, people to people conversation. All right. I said, can you explain to me what this quarantine thing means? Because in my mind, I was thinking, they take you to one of those halls and then you stay with all sorts of people. They said, no, that's not it. We'll take you to a 4-star hotel. I said, 4-star hotel? Who pays for it? The government pays. So what will I eat? The government will pay. And how do I get to the hotel? You take an Uber. The government will pay. So what happens when I'm on my way out? We'll get you an Uber again, take you to the airport. The government will pay. I said, the government pays for my almost paid vacation? They said, yeah, we'll pay. The only thing is that you're not coming in. I said, okay. Because it was late at night, I said, okay, I'm going to take that option of going to the hotel. And it's true. You can see the background. This is my, it's nice. I'm done like, in fact, I have room service at the expense of government. So I have my breakfast, I have my lunch, I have what they call snack time, which is around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, then I have dinner. Everything, anything you want, just dial and they're going to get it. I thought it was a joke. No, I will call and then they bring anything I want. I said, what kind of experience is this? To be very honest, I had time to do all the work I have never had time to do in a long time. So I had time to myself. The only thing is that I couldn't go to the conference to make my presentation. So I had all the time to do whatever I wanted and actually relax at the expense of who? The government. So a friend of mine, I had internet access, no restriction. So a friend of mine said, all this the problem is because of just a card. I said, well, yeah, that's what it is. That's they're maintaining the laws. I even tried to say, can I talk to another officer somewhere, a higher ranked officer? And the lady said, you can, but even if you did so, you're going to get the same result. I saw they were resolute. They were resolved. That's the way the law will be implemented. I said, okay, no problem. I have no problem with your law. By the way, I asked, which countries are restricted? Remember, I don't live in Kenya. I live in the US. I'm not a Kenyan citizen. So I said, I'm coming. They said, the problem is that you went to Kenya. And if you're coming from Kenya to Singapore, then you need that card. If you are coming directly from the US, you don't live in Kenya, or maybe you connected a flight in Kenya, no problem. Problem is that I said, which other countries are there on this list? So the lady pulled out the list, and I can read because this is the thing is about this is a learning process. Just in case you're watching this and you want to go to Singapore, just pay attention. There are 29 African countries and 13 countries in Latin America where you have to obtain the yellow card, the vaccination card showing that you have had the yellow fever vaccine. Remember, nobody uses yellow fever vaccine anymore across the world. I mean, I've traveled to a number of places. It's strange. In fact, this century, I've never traveled with any yellow fever, whatever. It's been abolished. However, I checked. Some countries are still allowed to require it, especially if you're coming from a place which probably they designate as a yellow fever prone area. So there are countries in Africa, Latin America. Let me just read. In Africa, south of the Sahara, you have Angola, Benin, Burkina Faso, Burundi, Cameroon, Central African Republic, Chad, Togo, Cote d'Ivoire, Democratic Republic of the Equatorial Guinea, Ethiopia, Gabon, Gambia, Ghana, Guinea-Bissau, Kenya, Liberia, Mali, Mauritania, Nigeria, Senegal, Sierra Leone, Sudan, South Sudan, Togo, and Uganda. If you are coming from Latin America, be careful. Argentina, Bolivia, Brazil, Colombia, Ecuador, French Guyana, Guyana itself, Panama, Paraguay, Peru, Suriname, Trinidad and Tobago, and Venezuela. 13 from Latin America and 29 from African countries. So, like I said, there will be two parts to this. The second part will be my own analysis of really what happened. It's not really who is to blame, but how did I get into this kind of thing? Remember, I came for a conference, and the conference people did not identify, they did not provide the information that if you are going, the country itself still requires, that yellow fever vaccination card. So I said, fine. So I opted to be the guest of government. That's the way I'm looking at it, being the guest of government. Everything paid for. I have some, call it nice time relaxing. The only thing is that I couldn't leave the hotel, but I wasn't interested in leaving the hotel. Really, that was not my interest. I was just coming, do my thing, and then get back. Everybody's busy, including those of you who are watching this program. So that has been my experience. The second part will be to talk about the whole issue, in perspective. But that will be when I leave and I get back to my destination, and then I can talk about, look at it. What happened? Why did I get into this kind of jam? I have traveled quite a lot. And so many of my friends I've talked to, they have also traveled. Nobody, you do the basic things that countries require. Nobody expects you to look into the nitty-gritty of what every country requires. You can't do that. So was it on me? Was it on the embassy or the website of the country itself? Or is it on the organizers of the conference to let you know about whatever it is, what we need to take from here and what I've learned so far? Because that's the essence of this program. When you are crossing cultures, you're going to other areas, you have to be very careful. You have to obey their laws. If they have whatever laws, you have to obey them. It's not on you to insist that whatever is obtainable in your place must be obtainable in that area. Just obey their laws, and then you don't have a problem. There was no shouting match. We had a normal conversation, and I'm having my VIP treatment, so to say, at the expense of government. So that's why you see me laughing. Otherwise, I mean, I'm sure if there was a shouting match or whatever, I wouldn't be laughing. And I wasn't going to take the option of trying to pay again for my way to get out, since I was going in 2 days or 3 days anyway. What is it? It's not a big deal. In any case, if I was to leave from the airport, of course, I wasn't going to get a flight that night. Of course, it meant staying somewhere at the airport, some room or whatever it is. Maybe I wouldn't even get the flight the following day, which was a Sunday. Maybe Monday, I would have spent like 48 hours confined to some room, as opposed to where I am at the moment. Okay, so I'm going to see you next week, for an analysis for part 2 of this. And stay blessed, stay well wherever you are. And please remember, you need to go that extra mile when you are traveling, just to understand what the laws say. It might take you a lot of time, but it will save you a lot of headache. Thank you, and be well until I come your way again. Bye for now.